I'm Jessica. 2 weeks ago, I stood on the graduation stage of Millfield University in front of 3,000 people. My parents, who had always been obsessed with social status and financial returns, sat in the front row, their faces as white as sheets. They came for my twin sister, Lily, thinking it was solely her big day. Little did they know I'd be the one giving the keynote speech as the top graduate and a recipient of the prestigious Harris Scholarship. This story doesn't start at graduation. It goes back 4 years to a stuffy evening in my parents' mansion. My father, a cold-hearted businessman, and my mother, a superficial socialite, were at the center of a world filled with materialism and favoritism. Lily and I received our college acceptance letters. Lily got into Millfield University, a symbol of high society education with an annual tuition of $70,000. I was accepted into Greenfield State, a good public institution with a more manageable $30,000 a year. That night, my father called a family meeting. He sat in his leather chair, looking like a king on his throne, and announced that he would cover every expense for Lily at Millfield. Then he turned to me and said, "Jessica, you're not cut out for the big leagues. There's no point in investing in your education. You lack the charm and connections that Lily has. You'll have to figure it out on your own." My mother just nodded, her eyes avoiding mine. Lily, already lost in her own world of excitement, didn't even spare me a glance. This wasn't the first time I'd felt the sting of their favoritism. Growing up, Lily was showered with expensive gifts, designer clothes, and all the opportunities that money could buy. I got the leftovers. When we were 16, Lily got a luxury car while I was given her old bike with a wobbly wheel. Family vacations were a nightmare. Lily always had the best room, and I was often squeezed into a cramped, windowless space. In family photos, Lily was always in the spotlight, and I was just a shadow on the edge. One day, I found my mother's phone unlocked. A text to her friend read, "Jessica is such a disappointment. She'll never make it big like Lily. We can't waste our resources on her." That was the moment I decided to take control of my own life. I opened my old, battered laptop and started researching full scholarships for independent students. I calculated the costs. Greenfield State would cost $120,000 over 4 years, and my parents offered nothing. I had only $3,000 from my part-time jobs. The gap was huge. I had 3 choices: drop out, take on a mountain of debt, or work full-time while studying part-time. I refused to become the failure they thought I was. I scoured scholarship databases day and night. Most were too competitive or had strict requirements. Then, I found the Harris Scholarship. It offered a full ride and a yearly stipend of $12,000, but only 25 students nationwide were selected. It seemed like a dream, but I bookmarked it anyway. I made a plan. I got a job as a barista at a local coffee shop, worked as a cleaner on weekends at the university dormitories, and applied to be a teaching assistant in the math department. I found the cheapest apartment near campus, a tiny studio with no proper heating or air conditioning. My schedule was grueling. Wake up at 4 a.m., work at the coffee shop until 7 a.m., go to classes from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., study or work as a TA from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m., and sleep for only 4 to 5 hours. During my freshman year, on Thanksgiving, I was alone in my cold apartment. I called home, and my mother's voice was distant, distracted. When I asked to talk to my father, she said he was busy. Then I saw Lily's post on social media, a photo of the family at the dining table, all smiles, with no place set for me. That night, something inside me changed. The pain I'd carried for so long turned into a quiet determination. In my second semester freshman year, I took a calculus class with Professor Thompson. He was known for his strict grading and high expectations. I worked hard, took detailed notes, and handed in my first paper, expecting at most a B. To my surprise, I got an A+ and a note saying, "See me after class." I was terrified, thinking I'd made some huge mistake. After class, Professor Thompson looked at me and said, "Jessica, this is one of the best papers I've seen in years. Where did you learn to write like this?" I told him about my situation, my parents' rejection, and my struggle to pay for school. He was silent for a moment, and then he said, "I think you should apply for the Harris Scholarship. You have the talent and the drive. I'll help you." The next 2 years were a blur of hard work and sacrifice. I missed out on parties, social events, and fun with friends. I focused on building a perfect GPA. There were times when I almost gave up. Once, I fainted at the coffee shop from exhaustion and dehydration, but I was back at work the next day. In my junior year, Professor Thompson told me he was nominating me for the Harris Scholarship. The application process was long and difficult, involving essays, interviews, and background checks. In the middle of it, Lily texted me, saying it was sad I never came home for holidays. I ignored her message and kept working on my application. One morning during my senior year, I received an email. I was one of the 50 finalists for the Harris Scholarship. The interview was in the city, 900 miles away. I had very little money in my bank account, and I couldn't afford a flight or a hotel. Just then, my friend Sarah knocked on my door. When she saw the email, she said, "You're going. I'll lend you the money for the bus ticket." I took the bus, arriving in the city early in the morning, feeling nervous and out of place. The waiting room was filled with well-dressed candidates accompanied by their wealthy parents. I looked down at my second-hand suit and scuffed shoes, but I remembered Professor Thompson's words. I didn't need to fit in, I needed to prove myself. 2 weeks later, I got the news. I was a Harris Scholar. Professor Thompson called to tell me that I could transfer to Millfield University for my final year, graduate with top honors, and give the commencement speech. I decided to do it, not for revenge, but for myself. 3 weeks into my final semester at Millfield, I ran into Lily in the library. She was shocked to see me. "How are you here?" "Mom and Dad didn't say anything," she stammered. I calmly told her that I had transferred on a scholarship. She looked at me with a mix of confusion and shame. That night, my phone started ringing with missed calls from my parents and Lily. I silenced my phone. I knew they'd be in for a shock at graduation. The weeks leading up to graduation were quiet. My parents had no idea about my achievements. They were busy planning Lily's big celebration. Professor Thompson asked if I wanted him to tell my family about my speech. I said no. I wanted them to hear it like everyone else. The night before graduation, I couldn't sleep. I thought about what it would be like to face my parents. I realized I didn't want revenge. I just wanted to be free from their expectations. On graduation day, the stadium was filled with 3,000 people. I arrived early, wearing the gold sash of the top graduate and the Harris Scholar medallion. I sat in the VIP section while Lily was taking pictures with her friends. My parents were in the front row, looking happy and proud, completely oblivious. When the university president introduced me as the top graduate and Harris Scholar, there was a moment of silence. Then I stood up and walked towards the podium. I could see my parents' faces turn from confusion to shock as they realized it was me. I started my speech. For years ago, I was told I wasn't worth investing in. I was told I didn't have what it takes. But I learned that you can't let others define your worth. You have to believe in yourself and work hard for what you want. I spoke about my struggles, my jobs, and my sacrifices. I looked at my parents sitting in the front row, their faces pale and stricken. After the speech, the applause was thunderous. People stood up and cheered. My parents approached me. My father's voice was hoarse as he asked, "Why didn't you tell us?" I replied, "Did you ever ask?" My mother was in tears, saying she was sorry. I told them I wasn't angry, but I wasn't going to pretend everything was okay. I had set boundaries. I had a job in the city starting soon, and I wouldn't be coming home. My father looked lost, asking what he could do. I said I didn't need anything from them, but if they wanted to have a real conversation, they could call me. In the following weeks, the news of my achievements spread. My parents' friends and my father's business partners were impressed, and my parents were left speechless. Lily called to apologize and said she wanted to start over. I told her I'd be open to that. 2 months after graduation, I moved into my new apartment in the city. It was small, but it was mine, paid for with my first paycheck from a top-tier accounting firm. Professor Thompson called to check on me, and Sarah came to visit, telling me how proud she was. One evening, I found a letter from my mother. She wrote about her regret, how she'd failed to see my worth. I read it and put it away. I knew I needed time to decide what to do next. It's been 2 years since graduation. I've been promoted at my job, and I'm starting a master's program. Lily and I meet for coffee sometimes, and we're slowly building a relationship. My parents have visited me in the city, and though it's still awkward, it's a start. I've learned that your worth isn't determined by others' opinions. You have to believe in yourself, work hard, and never give up on your dreams. I'm free now, free from the chains of my parents' expectations, and I'm ready to face the future on my own terms.